This is the philosophy that changed history. But who was its founder? Today we unravel Zeno, and we're going all the way back to ancient Greece for the first episode in our series on Stoicism. The oracle at Delphi famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And no one was more masterful of themselves than Zeno of Citium. Welcome to the School of Hard Knocks. This is where most people get their philosophy degree. It was here in the bustling port city of Athens that Zeno, a merchant turned philosopher, revolutionized the way people understood the world. His teachings were so influential that his school attracted some of the most powerful men in the Mediterranean. One student went on to become a Roman emperor, and another, well, he's responsible for this. But it wasn't always this way. At first, Zeno's ideas were radical, controversial even, because they challenged everything people thought they knew about life. In fact, Zeno started out with an entirely different philosophy before he realized it wasn't for him. Now, to understand what Zeno did, we have to start out by understanding what he didn't do. Most people think that life's a bunch of random events that just happen to us. Like when your flight gets canceled, that's just bad luck, right? Or when your crush rejects you, that's just fate. You had no control over that. But Zeno disagreed. He believed that our lives are like a tapestry, woven together by the threads of choices that we make every day. And these choices reveal something fundamental about ourselves. See, according to Zeno, we're all capable of living a virtuous life, but whether or not we do is completely up to us. But let's go back to the beginning. Born around 334 BC in the city of Citium on the island of Cyprus, Zeno's early life isn't really known, but what we do know is that he was born into wealth. He came from a lineage of merchants and traders who had amassed a fortune transporting goods throughout the Mediterranean. So it should come as no surprise that Zeno followed in their footsteps and became a merchant himself. Life was good. He had money, he had influence, and all of the material comforts that come with being rich. In fact, things were going so well that Zeno decided to sail his ship to Athens. Why? Well, because it was there that the great philosophers of the ancient world hung out. It was basically the Silicon Valley of the day. And Zeno wanted in. But when he got there, things didn't exactly go as planned. On the way, Zeno's ship was wrecked and he lost everything. No more money, no more status, and no more comfortable clothes. I mean, just look at this guy. Talk about a rough landing. Now, most people would have been devastated by such a loss. They might have seen themselves as poor, helpless victims of circumstance. But not Zeno. Instead, he saw an opportunity to learn from the best. So with next to nothing to his name, he walked into Athens and enrolled in the most prestigious philosophical school in town. It was called the Academy, and it was founded by Plato, the man considered to be the father of Western philosophy. Here, Zeno studied under the great philosophers of the day and learned everything they knew. But after a while, he felt something was missing. Plato's philosophy, which was largely focused on the ideal forms, didn't really speak to the practical realities of everyday life. Zeno longed for something more, something that could guide him through the complexities of human emotion and the challenges of everyday life. And so he set out to create his own philosophy, one that would help people like him, ordinary people who were trying to live extraordinary lives. What he created was called Stoicism. And it was a breath of fresh air in the stale world of Athenian philosophy. Now, if you've ever read any of the classics, you'll know that ancient Greek and Roman literature is filled with Stoic characters. People like Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who ruled the Roman Empire, or Seneca, the great Roman statesman and playwright, or even Harry Potter's nemesis, Lord Voldemort. Yeah, he's a Stoic too, although I wouldn't recommend his brand of Stoicism. The reason for this is simple. Stoicism works. For example, when Marcus Aurelius' son died, he didn't throw himself into a deep pit of despair. Instead, he wrote this: "The boy is gone. Let him not be gone, but be rather here with me now, Marcus, and let him not have died, but live. That's right. Marcus Aurelius was stoic even in the face of losing his only child. And that's because he took Zeno's teachings to heart. You see, the central tenet of Stoicism is that we shouldn't be slaves to our emotions. Instead, we should be masters of them. It's not that Stoics don't experience emotions, but that they choose how to respond to them. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about choosing which emotions to focus on and which ones to let go of. For example, when you get angry, a Stoic will ask themselves, is this anger helping me? If not, then it's time to let it go. But it's not just about controlling your emotions. Stoicism is also about taking responsibility for your actions. According to Zeno, we're all responsible for the choices we make. And these choices reveal what's most important to us. In fact, that's the ultimate test of wisdom, figuring out what's most important. To understand this, we need to talk about the 4 virtues. Now, these aren't your typical virtues like honesty or kindness. These are the ancient Greek virtues, which include wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. These virtues represent the ideal character traits that a person can have. And the goal of Stoicism is to cultivate these virtues in ourselves. Let's take courage, for example. A courageous person isn't afraid of danger. They're willing to face it head-on. But it's not just about physical courage. It's also about mental and emotional courage. It's about facing our fears and doing what's right even when we're scared. Now, you're probably thinking, great, but how does this apply to me? Well, let's say you're giving a presentation at work. You're nervous, your hands are shaking, and you want to quit. But you know that this presentation is important. It's a chance to show your boss what you're capable of. It's a chance to advance in your career. In that moment, you have a choice to make. Do you run away or do you stay and face your fear? If you choose to stay, you're acting with courage. Of course, it's not always easy to do what's right. Sometimes it requires self-sacrifice, like when a soldier runs into battle knowing that they may not come back. But that's where wisdom comes in. We use wisdom to figure out what's right, and then we use courage to do it. But what about justice? Well, that's about treating others fairly and treating everyone equally. It's about being honest and keeping our promises. And finally, there's moderation. That's about finding balance in everything that we do. It's not about being extreme or going to one end of the spectrum or the other. It's about finding the middle ground. These virtues are the foundation of Stoicism. They're what separates us from animals, and they're what allows us to thrive as human beings. But here's the thing, living a virtuous life isn't easy. It takes constant practice and discipline. It requires that we confront our vices and turn them into virtues. For example, the opposite of courage isn't cowardice. It's apathy. When we're apathetic, we don't care about anything. We've given up on life. The opposite of justice isn't injustice. It's greed. When we're greedy, we don't share with others. We hoard everything for ourselves. And the opposite of wisdom isn't ignorance. It's arrogance. When we're arrogant, we think we know everything. We won't listen to anyone else. Now, these vices are part of the human condition. We all struggle with them. But that's why it's so important to cultivate the virtues. Because when we do, we become better people. We become more resilient in the face of adversity. We become more compassionate towards others, and we become wiser in our decision-making. In short, we become stoic. Thanks for watching.